Welcome back everybody to another instalment of the Good Bit Podcast. Thanks so much for tuning in this week. This is the podcast where actors join me, Chris Moffat, to chat about their favourite movies of all time, and what an amazing movie we have to discuss today. It is 2009's World War II absolute epic. It is Inglourious Bastards by the one and only Quintin Tarantino. Lovely to revisit this one. I have the Blu-ray right here. If you're watching the video version, there it is. If you're not watching the video version and you're just listening to this podcast, which is what most people do, I'll prove it to you that I'm holding this in my hand right now. There's me hitting the case. Listen. There you go. There's the case opened. And it is blue inside. Great artwork. There's absolutely nothing in there. That's absolutely quite lazy, actually, from the company who created this Blu-ray release of Inglourious Bastards. I've been watching a few Tarantino films recently. We had Jackie Brown on the TV the other day, and I hadn't seen Inglourious Bastards in so long, so it was really nice to revisit it for this week, and it's definitely kind of climbing those ranks in terms of the best and my favourite QT films. Maybe I'm on a bit of a Tarantino upswing just now, and if we watch some more, we'll have a chat about them here on the Good Bit Podcast. But speaking of the podcast, we have an incredible guest. Lovely to see Sean Connor. Not seen you in so long, Sean. We were in college together a few years ago, but kind of not spoke to each other in so long. Just recently saw you in a show at the Tron Theatre. How have things been, my friend? Lovely to see you. Thanks for coming on.
I would say not much, but actually, quite a bit, to be fair. I've been quite lucky of late, quite being kept busy, keeping occupied, doing a lot of theatre recently, which has been great. So that's been good to keep me busy, and it's also a kind of totally different discipline as well. I think because when I left college and when I was at college, I was kind of lucky enough to be doing a bit of TV work, and obviously when I left college, I went straight into River City and I was there for 2 years. So only started, my first professional theatre job was only last February, which was the initial run of Moorcroft. So no, it's been good. It's been really, really good. It's been a good time.
It's kind of funny when you're at like a drama college or something, they kind of teach you for theatre. And then when you leave, you go, oh, there's actually so much more TV and film than you were expecting, and much more than actual theatre.
Exactly, yeah, exactly. I think, to be fair, NCLAM was good, like, in terms of, they did teach kind of camera discipline. There was classes within there, but obviously, you know yourself, it's very geared towards theatre, because that's the shows that you do when you're at college, and then obviously you gear up for your showcase and stuff like that. But NCLAM was a really good course in terms of how practical it was. And they definitely, for what I can remember anyway, there was definitely some good kind of film and TV classes within that. So yeah, it's good.
They're kind of given those opportunities, like, so for example, showcase or like the productions that you do and stuff, and people do come and see you. But you do feel kind of like, oh, I'm still at college. I still feel like I'm doing like a kind of, not an amateur kind of dramatic thing, but it doesn't feel quite as professional as that first job is. You know what I mean? No. How did you feel when you first got that professional theatre job, that Moorcroft job? Did you feel like, oh my god, this is that official now? Like, I'm now back on stage? Because was that before the pandemic or after?
That was just after. Yeah,
just coming out.
Yeah, just coming out of it. So no, I mean, I was absolutely buzzing. I think for the minute I got the script through for the audition, I knew that it was, something that I'd wanted to do. It was my first professional theatre audition as well, just because I'd ended up doing kind of so much TV and film stuff. But when I read the script, I knew that it was something that I wanted to do, regardless of whether it was, film, TV, theatre. That was a character that I wanted to play, and that was a story that I wanted to have a hand in telling. So no, I was absolutely buzzing with it.
Yeah. Well, a couple of weeks ago, we had one of your co-stars on, Jatinder. Had a great time catching up with Jay. And we kind of chatted about the show there, but for those who didn't listen to that episode, please, honestly, I implore you to go back and listen. Wow, what a great time. But you're here now. Tell us about the show. How did it go? Obviously, it got such an amazing response. The constant kind of posts on Twitter or X, as it's called now, whatever.
Yeah, X,
Instagram and all that stuff, like standing ovations, people cheering, people crying, people laughing. That really kind of hit home to a lot of people.
Absolutely. The initial run went so well, and I think it's one of those plays, I think, one of those pieces of writing that you kind of know that you're a part of something that's a bit special when you're doing it. The story was obviously a true story. And I think one of the main things about it was that it was so relatable to a lot of people, and I think that's why it's been received so well. it's obviously extremely well written. Like Ailey's a genius, and extremely well directed. And it's also her baby. Do you know what I mean? It's
Right.
you know, it's the story of her dad and his experiences growing up, and it's obviously her first play as well. So everyone kind of banded together and kind of became at that team. You know, kind of obviously we're a football team in the play, but
Yeah.
became that kind of team really, really quickly because we knew what it was that she wanted to do and we knew what it was that she wanted to get across. And I think it was about getting people into the theatre that otherwise, you know, would probably not go.
Yeah.
And we found out this year that last year's run, I think they'd done a survey, and 55% of the people that came to see the show had never been to the theatre before in their life.
Wow.
Which is insane, which is absolutely insane,
Yeah.
and is exactly what I think she set out to do, to tell a kind of working class story that I think these days you don't see often enough on Scottish stages or any stages really, that I'm aware of. So we all kind of knew what it was that we wanted to do for the beginning, and it was just a brilliant team effort to create this, you know, in my opinion, really brilliant piece of theatre. So no, it's an absolute privilege to be a part of.
I mean, I think relatability that's the key into it, because it's a real story. It's written by it was for Ailey's dad, or Ailey's dad's story. Is that right?
Yeah.
So everybody knows someone like that, and everybody's kind of played football with their mates. Even the slightest wee kind of connection, you're going to have that to the play. You know what I mean? Which I really liked about it. And just some bits, man. Like, I don't know. I was probably howling. I'm quite harsh on Scottish theatre and stuff. I think a lot of it can be quite samey, especially comedy.
Absolutely. Yeah.
A lot of it can be kind of like, this gets a laugh in the Scottish audience, so we're just going to do that, you know. Whereas this the show had me absolutely howling. It was especially the bit where one of the characters ends up rubbing some like human waste on his face.
Yeah.
And
do you know that actually happened? That was a totally true story. So I mean, we were in rehearsals, kind of going through everything with Ailey. We were kind of baffled because we knew it was a true story, but there's things that happen in it that there's things that happen in it that we're like, surely not, like that can't be real. And it turns out it was. Like everything in it happened. Obviously, it's kind of been compartmentalised and brought down for the theatre.
Right.
It being a six-a-side team, because you can't have 11 guys running about the Tron stage. It would just be a bit cramped, I think.
Aye.
Yeah, it's mental, the extent of the stuff that happens in it, that genuinely did all happen. And I actually kind of didn't even really believe her myself, to be honest, until I met her dad, and her dad was like, "Oh no, that happened." That actually, I watched that happen with my own eyes, and I'm like, "That's absolutely insane. That's mental."
It was the guy's reaction. It was the reaction to finding out that he'd done it, which is just hilarious, man.
Yeah,
Honestly.
It's great, and it's you know, that I think that just showcases how brilliant a writer she is. It's kind of. It's comedy, and then just absolute misery, and totally takes you by surprise. Which you know, it's that shock factor as well that she manages to kind of weld into it as well. So
yeah, absolutely. Hopefully, I'm going to manage to get her on the podcast at some point as well. I have met her. I'm adamant in this. I just can't remember for the life of me where. I think it was like in passing, and that was it.
Okay.
But I'm going to get on the podcast. We'll chat about it some more as well. I'm going to put you on the spot here. Can you tell the listeners where they can come see it again later in the year?
Yes, so we are heading out on tour with the National Theatre of Scotland, and I've been asked this by so many people in the bar.
There you go.
So I've actually memorised the full tour schedule at this point. So we are, I don't know in order, but we are going to Stirling, Aberdeen, Dundee, Kirkcaldy, Cumbernauld, Greenock, Edinburgh, Musselburgh, and that might be it. I feel like there might be one that I'm forgetting.
Sounds about right. Did you say Cumbernauld? Aye.
Cumbernauld, yeah. Kilmarnock.
Kelly.
Kilmarnock as well.
Nice one. So when's that?
So looking forward
in autumn time?
to the road. October we head out on. So we begin rehearsals. We do a week of rehearsals at the end of September, and then we do our first show, which I believe is in Stirling at McRobert in the first week of October. So yeah, really looking forward to it, and really looking forward to seeing how other audiences in Scotland take to it, because you know it is extremely Glaswegian.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to take up to places like Aberdeen and Dundee and see how they react to it.
Imagine just came out absolutely busting out the curtain, and people are just sitting there going, "What?"
I know. Like I don't know. That's we were having a laugh about it, because we were like, "Are we going to need to change our accents up for Kirkcaldy?" You know. get them on board. But no, I think we'll be fine. We'll be all right. We should be grand.
That's good, man. Well, I'm looking forward to hearing how that goes later on in the year. How did you get started? What was kind of the? I don't always like to say the word actor because we do so much. You know what I mean? Whether it's like writing, directing, doing dancing, I don't know. What made you want to perform, get on stage, or be in front of the camera?
So it started very, very early on for me. I think, you know, my dad, growing up, wanted me to be the next striker for Celtic, and
Aye.
I was awful at football, so it was just never going to happen. It was just
You're
never
breaking
going
the
to happen.
illusion of the show here. You're meant to be
I
great
know,
at football.
I know. That's flexing the acting chops. Know what I mean? But no, I'm terrible at football, as you could probably see with that keep it up challenge thing that we done at the Tron as
I
well.
was going to ask you that. So there was a keep you up challenge outside the actual show. I didn't attempt it. I didn't want to embarrass it, like myself and my family. But some of the keep ups that were going on, there were people in like the 40s and the 50s. Where did you rank?
At 16 I go, so I ended
Nice
up.
one.
So I ended up last place at the end of it, but Kyle and Jay were relegated for the list. So they were put in the relegation zone. So obviously as punters came in to see it, they were kind of giving it a bash, and as someone kind of slotted in, we would just kind of work them down and stuff like that. So
Aye.
it's a good wee marketing thing, do you know what I mean? It was good fun for people. But I think the winner actually, I think it was like 101.
What?
The winner ended up doing, yeah, the winner ended up doing was like 101, and one of the guys that was one of the guys that works in the theatre, I think he got 112, but they didn't count it because he worked there.
You'd be raging.
I think the guy that won it, who actually I think I'd seen on Twitter was another actor. He'd got 101, so I think he won a copy of the script, the published play, and a wee kind of trophy. So it's a nice wee thing to do. Do you know what I mean? Nice thing from a marketing point of view, and it was a good laugh as well.
So you weren't good at football?
Yeah, aye. So I wasn't good at football. I wasn't really good at any sports really, and I'm still not. Played the odd game of fives and that, but I stick out like a sore thumb. Yeah, it was just one of those things where, you know, I think my mum and dad were like, well, what can we get him into? What's he going to be good at? And they put me into a wee acting class, I think when I was only like 6 or 7, which was at Eastwood Park Theatre, I'm sure. Yeah, I just kind of enjoyed it. Kept enjoying it, and then as I grew older, started to realise that I kind of had a passion for it, and that it was something that I was quite good at. So just stuck with it, and from there went through different kind of acting academies, different schools. I then kind of joined an agency, done a couple of adverts and stuff like that, so got a bit of experience on a set, which was great to have that for a young age. And then I was at Glasgow Acting Academy for 10 years.
That's right, yeah.
Before moving on to Enclan. So yeah, it was just one of those things where, you know, I kind of realised this is one of the only things that I know I'm good at, so stick at it, and obviously became really, really passionate about it. So
Yeah, totally.
I know
I was looking on Spotlight, right? I never really like to do loads of research on people I'm speaking to, mostly because I know them like personally.
Yeah.
But like, say for example, if it's someone I don't know, I thought I'd look on their Spotlight. And it's not that I don't know you, but I don't know you very well. Like we've met a few times
Yeah.
and been in college and stuff like that. But I just wanted to have a look. I went on your Spotlight, and what did you do with Frankie Boyle?
So Frankie Boyle, that was probably my first TV show job.
Right.
And I've done a couple of adverts and stuff like that. I was do you remember the SPL stickers? And the
Aye.
sticker books? So
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
like the telly mascot for that for 2 years in a row. And I'd done that, and the adverts were mental. Like there was one of them where it was like green screen, and it was just my floating head and hands, so I looked a bit like Rayman. It was crazy. But then Frankie Boyle's Tramadol Nights was a sketch show that he done for Channel 4 that I ended up being cast in, and when I was about either 13 or 14, and that was my kind of first telly show job.
Wow.
As you can imagine, a bit of a mad thing to be a part of when you're 14
Right.
years old. I actually think it got cancelled after one season because it was that offensive. And
Oh,
funnily
not
enough,
because of you.
no, well, hopefully not.
Hopefully
Hopefully not. Aye. And actually, funnily enough, somebody sent me the sketch. It'd been going about TikTok or something again, or it appeared on TikTok or whatever, and someone sent me the sketch, and I was watching it going, this might get me cancelled. I was like, this is like so bad. I mean, obviously I didn't write it, so I think I'll be
Aye.
alright, but watching it back, I'd kind of totally forgot about it, and in this day and age when there's you know, there's so much more kind of care taken towards offending people. Watching it back, I was a wee bit shocked, remembering what it was that, you know, the other kids and me had to say within
Aye.
the sketch. So the
That's
sketch
hilarious,
was, the sketch was like it was a parody of the movie I think is it three children in it? It's like
don't
about
know.
these Victorian children who. It was quite a popular film, I think, back in the day, about these three Victorian children that find this kind of magical monster in the woods, and it grants them
Right.
wishes. Um, and the take on the sketch was, what if three kids from Glasgow found this magical monster in the woods, and yeah, we make it do, rather than take the wishes, we make it do some questionable things.
Right.
So yeah, it's mental. I mean, go and watch it. You'll know exactly what I'm talking about. It's insane.
Nice one. And I think also now that TikTok's such a big thing, I don't know if you're on TikTok. I'm kind of new to TikTok. I was really late into it. In lockdown, everybody seemed to be on TikTok all of a sudden. It was like Zoom.
Yeah, I was the same. I kind of done a few TikToks just for a laugh, kind of when I
Aye.
was in lockdown, just to keep myself occupied, really. And then you watch them back now, and you go, "Oh, for God's sake, I did it."
I don't know what was I doing there, and I must have been so
I
bored.
know. But no, it's a good laugh. There's a lot of content on it. I think it has its positives and definitely has its negatives. But yeah, it's huge.
Definitely ways to kind of promote yourself anyway. You can go in there, but like I was scrolling through some like random sitcom scenes and stuff, and like sometimes you get like a scene from Still Game or a scene from Chewing the Fat or something will come up.
Yeah.
And then recently it's been Come Fly With Me, you know, like David Williams and
Yeah,
who's the other
yeah.
guy?
I came across that
Matt
one.
Lucas. Matt Lucas.
Matt Lucas and David Williams. Yeah.
Aye, and honestly, man, like some of those scenes are just so like cancel worthy, but at the same time they're still hilarious.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, it's great. I mean, it's really funny. I mean, it depends where you stand on that whole spectrum of, what you're allowed to kind of joke about.
Right.
I mean, for me, I think I'm kind of on the style of thinking that anything's fair game, really, as long as it's funny. I think if you can make something that's really kind of comedic out of it, then great, go ahead. But obviously, nowadays it's caused a lot of offence to a lot of people, and you saw that a couple of years ago. I think Little Britain
Right.
got removed from Netflix and got removed from BBC iPlayer, and then I think Come Fly With Me. I don't even know if it's on Netflix anymore. Just because, but yeah, it's mental. Looking back now, than the way the world is
Right.
now, it's mental. Some of the stuff they get away with. Do you know what I mean?
You can look back at any show though. Any show, it doesn't even need to be a comedy. You know what I mean? There's going to be stuff in there. But I just think
Aye.
comedy, a joke's a joke. You know what I mean? We're
Yeah.
it's for a reason. We're not doing it. We're not. A sitcom isn't a documentary. It's meant to be
Yeah.
funny. So, but I understand. Obviously, if something's really bad, I understand. We both came from the same kind of generation where we both grew up. I'm assuming. Watching and rewatching those Still Game DVDs over and over again between season 1 and season 6.
Yeah.
And we were pretty adamant and pretty content with the fact that Still Game was never going to come back.
Yeah.
We'd rewatch these DVDs all the time, and it was just became part of our lives. Now I'm assuming you're also a fan. You can quote it left, right, and centre. Then eventually, Still Game did come back in 2014, 2015 sort of time for the stage show. We did a couple more series for the BBC, and on one of the last episodes, if not the last episode, was it the final one?
Yeah, the last one. Yeah.
I was on tour doing a TIE show with my mate Jack, and we're sitting there watching the final episode of Still Game, and your face pops up in this last episode, and we were like, "Is that Sean?"
It does indeed. Aye.
Just for someone again from our generation that probably just loved that show, I'm assuming that was a total buzz.
Oh, major, massive moment. Do you know what I mean? I remember getting the audition through. I actually got the audition. I think it was like at 7 o'clock. It was a very last minute audition. It was like at 7 o'clock at night. I got the email through from my agent, and it was like, they need you to be there at like 10 a.m. tomorrow, and it was to audition for two different parts. So it was one in the first episode, and then the one that I ended up booking, which was the Gary the Charity Boy in the last episode. So yeah, it was a bit hectic, and it was a bit like, whoa, this is a bit mental, because obviously it's still game. Do you know what I mean? As you say, grew up watching it all my life. Huge fan of Ford and Greg. Huge fan of Chewing the Fat. Huge fan of everything that they've done for Scottish comedy. And then to book it was just, it was a bit surreal. Being on the set and kind of seeing the guys in their get up
Right.
was mental, absolutely mental. It's like you're in, just get to your trailer, get to costume, and then before you know it, I was sitting in the makeup chair with Sanjeev next to me, Jane McCarry next to me, and Greg Hemphill on the other side, just kind of shooting the shit and chatting. It was just a bit, it was mental, but you've just got to embrace those kind of things and just go on and try and kind of give your best to it. And it was a lovely wee part to play. Do you know what I mean? I got some great scenes with Jack and Victor, and I got a great scene with Naveed as well, which was really nice to be a part of. So yeah, total buzz, total kind of bucket list moment.
I was just thinking that a bucket list must have been.
Yeah.
What's your favourite
Absolutely.
Chewing the Fat sketch or character?
Character, it has to be Ronald Villiers.
I was going to say it needs to be Ronald Villiers' best one.
Has to be, yeah, it has to be. Every single sketch is absolutely hilarious. I think the funniest one for me is when he's doing the voiceover for the porno, and she's like, what is it she says? She's like, I'm hot, and he's like, do you want me to open a window? Hilarious.
That's
Absolutely.
it. That's it. She's like, oh
What I
yeah,
mean.
I'm not feeling too good. How? What's wrong
Yeah.
with you?
Yeah. Honestly, never gets old. Fucking incredible. But I would probably say my favourite. I've got two favourite sketches, which are two quite short ones. And one of them is when the guy goes to the benefits office, and they tell him that he's cutting his benefits.
That's right.
And he goes, before you go any further, Mr. McNulty, I have heard all the insults, and then he kind of rhymes off everything that anybody's ever called him, and it's just hilarious. And then the other one is when the guy turns up at the house, and he's like, sorry mate, can I just jump in to use your toilet? I ain't bother. And he goes in and he shuts the door behind him, it's the glass door, and he comes out and starts eating the tangerines. Hilarious. Amazing. Absolutely incredible.
That's good. What about the Invisible Boss?
Oh, amazing. There's so many. There's far too many. Like, Chewing the Fat was one of those things where and everything about it was funny.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Every character that they had, every sketch that was on, and they'd done so many episodes as well, every single sketch that they'd done, you would get a laugh out of. And that's hard to achieve, I think, given how many episodes they've done and how long it ran for. That's something that's really hard to achieve, but it's testament to Ford and Greg, and also
Totally.
also Robert Florence and Ian Connell, who I only found out not long ago helped write Chewing the Fat.
Really?
They did, yeah. They helped write it, I'm pretty sure.
Didn't know that.
So it's testament to those guys for just being able to write such excellent comedy and execute it in the way that they did.
What about the bowling club, like with the tournament? Anyway, in the semis, so many funny ones. My favourite Ronald Villiers was the Five Guys Called Mo doing the Quick Fit advert. Best one.
So good.
I went through a phase. My name's Steve. I went through a phase where I don't know what show I was doing at the time, but I was adamant I'm going to get every single person in this cast quoting this scene, and we watched it every day.
Fintiton.
I don't know, but it's upside down. Anyway, people haven't seen it, they'll have no idea what we're talking about, but anyway, go check that one out. Ronald Villiers, Chewing the Fat, put it into YouTube.
Just watch them all.
Watch them all. Aye, I don't know, I'm actually an actor, you don't know me, I was in Taggart, I was the corpse. So many funny lines, man, so good.
I know, it's so good.
But anyway, in terms of watching movies, it's I guess, the main kind of theme of the good bit is chatting about films. What was like your first kind of major favourite movie? Do you remember when you were wee watching films all the time when you were younger? And do you remember the first time you went to the cinema?
I do, yes. The first time that I remember going to the cinema. Yeah, the first time I remember going to the cinema and watching a film was actually the original Spider-Man.
Nice one.
Which was, massive one. Do you know what I mean? I was actually thinking about that last night, and kind of remembered that that's what it was, and even now kind of still holds up as a really great movie. Obviously the CGI and stuff leaves a bit to be desired given how long ago it came out, but it's still an excellent movie, and I remember going and watching that and just kind of just falling in love with the idea of being in a cinema and watching something on a screen that big and just kind of getting totally lost in it. So that was the first movie I ever seen at the cinema. I remember my dad took me to see it. We trip with my dad, so that was lovely. And then my favourite movie of all time, still to this day, I remember watching it for the first time when I was, I think, about 14, 15, and nothing's been able to pip it to the post since, is INGLOURIOUS Bastards. Just an incredible movie. Like, it's got everything. I'd kind of, before I'd watched it, I kind of knew of Tarantino's work. Obviously, I think I'd seen Pulp Fiction and I'd seen Reservoir Dogs, and I remember it coming out, and obviously I was too young to go and see it in the cinema, and I was actually in Ireland at the time visiting family, and I was staying at my auntie's house, and my dad and my auntie had decided to go out to the pub, and it just came out in DVD, and I kind of came downstairs and I seen it sitting on the shelf, and I was like, Dad, can I watch that while we were at the pub? And he's like, aye, go on then, aye, enjoy yourself. And I sat and watched it and was just absolutely blew away, engrossed by it. Like, it's just an incredible story, incredibly well written, stylish, it's funny, it's he's like the most masterful take on suspense.
Right.
Some of the scenes in that movie I've ever seen in cinema. Yeah, truly, truly incredible movie.
The first time I watched it, right, this is probably a terrible thing because I'm part of the industry as well, but I was trying to find like a stream of it, right, because it wasn't available on Netflix or anything. I didn't have the DVD. I was trying to find a dodgy stream of the film. I don't know why I was wanting to watch it. Maybe it's just because I was trying to do like a Tarantino kick or something. But I'd never seen it before. And the stream that I found had no subtitles whatsoever, right? So I don't know if it was maybe like a German stream on a German website or something, you know, which is like I mean, I know it's not a foreign language film, but it's, I think, predominantly spoken in German and French.
So a lot of German, a lot of French in it as well. Yeah.
No subtitles, not even like English subtitles, like just no subtitles in general, right? So, you know the way sometimes, like, I don't know, filmmakers want to kind of be artistic and stuff, you know what I mean? And it'll just come up sometimes, and even when you are watching anything with subtitles, it'll be like, oh, characters are speaking German or whatever. I thought maybe that was it, you know, you're not really supposed to know what they're talking about, you know what I mean? You're kind of supposed to, but it went on and on and on, and that first scene, obviously, is in French, not German, the first scene, with Christoph Waltz, which is probably my favourite scene in the film, which is probably like that very first scene. But the fact there was no subtitles whatsoever, I was just waiting for it to kick into English, and I got about an hour and a half in, I had absolutely no idea what was going on, so I had to Google, does Inglourious Bastards, or is Inglourious Bastards supposed to have subtitles? And it's like, obviously. Obviously it's a film.
Yeah, I know that'd be a bit difficult. That'd be totally difficult.
So I just went, right, okay, I'll wait till I can get it on DVD or I'll find it on Netflix or something. So I came out of it, that was fine. Didn't watch it again until a couple of years later. And then when I saw the subtitles, I was like, oh, no, I understand what's going on and stuff. So that's the first time I saw it. So that's why I would never recommend anybody watching anything on a dodgy stream. But especially a film like this. And I don't know about Tarantino, like, honestly, the way that he does his films with like the story sometimes out of sync, you know, you get information really early on that you're supposed to try and remember later on and stuff. It can be quite, you know, it's not hard to watch his movies, but you kind of need to be in, you know what I mean? You're in the zone, and he's so good at that, you know, like creating that world around him, where you're like totally involved with the characters in the city and all the stuff that's going on. But I think this one has got to be like, I know there's a couple of times it jumps back and forth, but it is a proper like linear story. Like it jumps forth like a few years after like the girl escapes from the French town where her family's massacred at the start of the film, and then it jumps like 4 years later. But other than that, like I think it is properly, you just follow the story as it goes, you know, which I think none of his other films really do that as much, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I genuinely believe that. I mean, obviously, I think the majority of people would point to kind of Pulp Fiction, maybe even Kill Bill,
Right.
You know, and maybe even recently, which I kind of thought, me personally, thought was a bit mental, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. But people always kind of point to those as being his greatest movies. But I genuinely believe this is his best, his most well put together film. I think everything in it is in the perfect place. Like
Right.
that opening scene for me is, I mean, I can't say it's the best opening scene ever because I've not seen every movie that's ever existed,
Right.
but for me it's the best opening scene that I've ever seen, and it's a masterclass in creating suspense. And it's not the only scene in the movie where he does that same thing, but it still hits the same way every single time. Like there's the scene with Christoph Waltz in the restaurant where he makes her eat the strudel. That's so, like, you're gripped by that because it's so suspenseful. The scene in the bar with the Nazi guard and the
Michael
undercover.
Fassbender, yeah.
Oh, it's absolutely mind blowing. It's incredible, and every time I watch it, it doesn't get any worse. It actually gets better in my head because you forget these wee tiny details when you've not watched it for so long.
Yeah.
And the bit with, you know, when he hands up his hand, and I think he does that.
He gives that away. No,
Yeah,
he
and
does. No, he does that. But it's
Yeah,
meant
oh
to be
yeah, he does that.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
should
yeah.
do that. Yeah, and he gives it away. And you don't actually, like, I never actually, watching it the first time, I never knew that was a thing. So you don't get to know that that's a thing until you see the guy's look, and then you see him kind of reveal that he knows that they're undercover.
Yeah.
And it's just, yeah, I'm honestly, I could talk all day about it. It's genuinely, for me, the best movie ever. Nothing is kind of came close to pipping it to the post as of yet.
So I just googled best opening scenes in movie history, right? So
Right.
I don't know who, according to who this is, right? But we've got Raiders of the Lost Ark as the number one pick, which is probably a good shout. But I can't remember the opening scene. Obviously, I remember the film, but the opening scene, I
Do you
can't
want to
remember
hear
that.
something mental? I've never seen it.
Really, never seen Indiana Jones.
I've
I've
never seen any of the Indiana Jones films.
I've only seen the first two, and I should
Aye.
have seen them all. But I know. I mean, Raiders are a good one. That's a total 80s fun adventure
Yeah,
film.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
you'll have fun watching that. Then we have Inglorious Bastards as number 2 on the list, which is
Wow.
pretty good. Number
There
3
you
is The
go.
Dark Knight. Great opening scene with the
Oh
bank
yes.
heist.
Oh, with the Joker in the bank. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
incredible. Do
great
you know
opening
actually
scene.
it was funny. I was talking to Ailey last night, Ailey Lowen, and we were actually chatting about films and chatting about, and she asked me who my favourite directors were, and that was funny. That was who I said. I said Quentin Tarantino, American, and Christopher Nolan, UK.
Yeah.
So
So
yeah,
I'll need to ask you about Oppenheimer as well. Um,
absolutely.
so we also have The Godfather as number 4, and then The Matrix number 5. There's your top 5 greatest opening scenes in
The
movie history. What's
Matrix,
the opening
really?
scene of The Matrix? What's the
I
opening scene
don't. I
there?
can't see that. That's another one for me. The Matrix that I could never quite get with. It's quite forgetful
I
for
agree.
me.
And I watched it in the cinema in 2019. It was like the 20-year anniversary of The
Oh
Matrix,
yeah,
right?
you
And I
didn't you?
hadn't seen it before, right? I was like, oh, this is going to be perfect to get to see it in the cinema and stuff. But I'm sure in 1999, right, when the film came out, all these like CGI and special effects and stuff were just like mind-blowing. But now,
Yeah,
after seeing one Avengers movie, I've seen all the
yeah.
Star Wars, you're like, right, okay. You know what I mean?
Aye. Yeah,
So,
no,
good
I
film, but
totally agree. I think I watched it years and years and years ago, and I just even back then I never really took to it. Doesn't really seem like my thing, but yeah, that's a mad one. The opening scene, I can't even remember what the opening scene of that was.
also has Jaws on here. That's a good opening scene. Have you seen
Oh
Jaws?
yeah, yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. That's a classic.
Yeah, it's probably my favourite film.
Mm.
So yeah, and The Lion King, good shout too. So there's the best opening scenes in movie history. And I say this one with Christoph Waltz at the start of *Inglourious Bastards*, probably one of my favourite opening scenes in movie history as well. And even when I watched that dodgy stream of the film years ago, and I had to stop watching it because I ran out of the subtitles. Even that scene when I didn't have any idea what they were saying,
Still
I'm
grip.
still gripped. And it's Christoph Waltz, man. He's just amazing. And also his character in Django as well. It's just as kind
Yeah,
of impactful. You know?
absolutely. He's a tremendous actor, and actually, interestingly enough, he's one. I think I read a while back that I'm pretty sure he was thinking about chucking it before
Really?
he got Glorious Bastards, because I think he tried to. Obviously, he'd been an actor in Germany, I think, and then he'd kind of tried to, or maybe not. Is he German or is he Austrian?
I think he's German. I don't
I
know.
think he's German.
I'll search
Um,
that.
and he'd kind of tried to kind of get his first role in America or whatever, and it just wasn't happening for him. And I think I'd read that he was about to chuck it, and Quentin Tarantino seen him in something, and that was how he ended up booking the part. And to be fair, he's absolutely tremendous in it. Like the whole way through it, you hate him so much
Yeah.
because he plays the part that well. He's a total fucking psychopath in it. And then it just kind of goes full circle right at the end as well when you see him finally get his comeuppance.
Absolutely.
Brilliant.
Even the moment where he kind of comes over to Shoshana in the restaurant where he's eating the strudel or whatever, he walks over and the music is like, it changes to being this really kind of like intimidating, overwhelming kind of score just because
Yeah,
he's back on screen because the first time you see him again since that opening scene.
yeah.
But yeah, just brilliant. Even what is that with like movie villains drinking milk? You know, like he has a glass of milk. There's a Clockwork Orange. He's drinking milk.
Yeah.
There's another one I saw earlier on Twitter which made me think of that. There's someone else drinking milk. The woman in Get Out is drinking milk. Something about milk. I love a
Oh
glass of
yeah,
milk.
so she is actually. I didn't even think of that. That's mental. Do you know it's weird as well? Like I mean, it's kind of related, but also not related. I found out not long ago that from watching Succession that there was a theory going about of who was going to, because obviously it was a kind of the whole thing was who was going to end up getting the company there. Have you watched Succession?
Right, listen, I'm on season 3. You can't finish this story.
Right, okay, cool. No, I'll leave it there. I'll leave it there then. But it was to do with brand placement,
Got you.
and essentially the theory that was going about was that apparently Apple don't let villains in movies have an iPhone.
Oh,
So if you're a bad character, if you're a villain of any sort, or you're a kind of a character
Really?
that has a negative impact on the film, apparently Apple do not let the character have an iPhone. So so people had a theory that, one of the people in the cast who visibly does not have an iPhone compared to everybody else
Ah.
is the kind of I can't really say anymore if you
Right,
don't watch
okay,
it.
cool. But that's a bit daft on
It
Apple's
is. It
point of
does
view.
sound that. It does sound that. It's mad that folk were able to kind of point that out. Do you know what I mean? And notice
Aye.
that, because I would never have noticed anything like that.
Would never
I don't
even
really
clicked.
look at the phones that people have in TV shows.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? It's a bit insane.
I mean, the market for a
Um,
new phone, what has he got? What's Logan Roy got? You know what I mean? I would never think of that.
yeah, exactly. I know. Mental. But yeah, it's insane. And that was another thing about Inglourious Basterds that was up for debate as well, because I was actually reading up on it again last night after watching the scene.
Yeah.
Was that scene with the strudel, and why he tells her to wait for the cream. And the whole thing that was up for debate was that because he was trying to test her whether or not she's Jewish.
Right,
And
got
then
you.
another thing that kind of popped up as well was that why does he offer her a cigarette? And people were saying that they thought that it was because he's trying to see if she's shaking.
Oh, wow.
Takes the cigarette. So that just kind of is one of the things that just compounds how well together put a movie in, how well together a movie it is, how well put together a movie it is, that there's all these wee tiny details that you might pick up on and you might
Yep.
not pick up on, but you'll maybe pick up on them when you watch it a second time, or maybe even a third time, but it's always kind of evolving in your mind.
Yeah.
And that's a great film for me.
Do you think well, maybe not then, but I was like, do you think he knows that she is the one that got away all those years ago on that French farm?
I don't know how he could.
No,
Do you know what
he
I
wouldn't.
mean?
You didn't see her
Because
face.
he didn't see her face. Do you know what I mean? He only seen the back of her head when she was running away. But I do definitely think there's something in the idea of making her eat the strudel, because
Aye.
again, reading up on it last night, back in those days, strudel was made with pig lard, which
Okay.
isn't kosher because of the rationing. It had to be made with pig lard,
Wow.
which isn't kosher. So that's why he makes her eat the strudel, to try and test her to see if she's Jewish.
The absolute detail that is put into these things, though, do you know what I mean?
It's insane, but it's so good. It's so good.
So this film is 2009, right? So
Yeah.
he's obviously Tarantino's known for his like excessive violence and these big scenes with like brutal deaths and things like that. And obviously the end scene of Kill Bill Volume 2, is it where like, or is he Volume 1 at the end, where she just takes through like the 60 guys with a sword and stuff. It's like ridiculous. It's this over the top violent scene.
Yeah.
But in terms of this, obviously that's kind of blown up to different proportions, Kill Bill, but this one's like an actual war film, where in theory, like, this is supposed to have happened at some point, right?
Yeah.
Obviously it's not how Hitler died or all that stuff, but it's his take on this story in the war. So just with like all the typical Tarantino deaths, I wonder what other films reach this kind of level of the kind of brutality. For example, someone like slicing off someone's scalp, you know what I mean? And it's like you're literally watching. There's the guy's brain. You know what I mean? And that's just a Tarantino trademark. The scene with Fassbender in the restaurant with all the shooting, it must go on for at least about 60 seconds of constant like bullets and gunfire and stuff. And then
And
obviously
the bit at the end when they kill Hitler, like his face,
Mental.
you actually watch his face get like ripped apart by bullets at close range. It's mental.
yeah.
But it's fun. Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
he catches a lot of flack for the amount of violence he uses in his films, and that kind of becomes his trademark. But interestingly enough, I don't think that should be his defining characteristic as a director. I think
No.
I think it should be his ability to create suspense, which he does in so many movies. Do you know what I mean? He does it in Reservoir Dogs with that scene with ear. He does it numerous times in Inglourious Bastards. He does it in Django. That's for me what makes him one of the greatest directors that's ever lived. And he's experimental as well, which is another thing. I mean, sometimes it goes great, which I think Kill Bill probably was experimental. Obviously, it was a kind of, he drew a lot of inspiration from Japanese and Asian cinema.
Right.
That, and then sometimes it doesn't go as well. like, well, in my opinion, like Death Proof. Like, have you seen
Right.
Death Proof?
Yeah, yeah. It's definitely his worst or my least favourite. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, yeah. It's mental. I don't, yeah. I just couldn't understand it for the life of me. I was like, what is happening here? This makes absolutely no sense. But he's willing to take risks, I think, and that's another thing. Again, I think is the same with Christopher Nolan.
Yeah.
Is another director who loves to take risks and more often than not pulls them off.
I mean, obviously there's the scene with Fassbender and the Nazi soldier in the restaurant, right?
Yeah.
And he does this a couple of times in his films, Tarantino, where, like, obviously the films are quite long, right? It's between his average film length, I think, is like 2 hours and 20 minutes or something like that, but some of them go up to like 3 hours and stuff. And sometimes, obviously, like, you'll just have a scene and it'll be a long conversation, and then everybody will just die or get killed in these scenes. And sometimes, what was the point of, like, committing to these characters, But at the same time, they're short stories. You know what I mean? Like, you're watching the narrative. You're supposed to care, within this hour that we've met this character.
Yeah.
I guess that's why you kind of care for Shoshana, because you see it at the start of the film, and then you kind of want her to do well by the end of the film, right?
Yeah.
And the difference between her death with Frederick, Daniel Bruhl's character, it's just gunshots. It's stereotypically like a simple death scene compared to the other stuff. What did you make of her, like, performance and her character?
She's incredible, I think, and I think the story of that character, like everything within it comes full circle.
Yeah.
Absolutely everything in it. Do you know what I mean? So she's obviously completely victimised at the beginning. Her whole family's massacred, and that shot as well when they're having a conversation and the camera just pans
Brilliant.
down below the floorboards.
See, when the camera moves down, it makes you feel nervous. Your tummy goes.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
100%. So everything comes kind of full circle. She eventually gets her revenge in such a smart, kind of stylish and entertaining way. Like that whole scene with the in the cinema where she replaces the film and she's just laughing on this big screen as flames are like engulfing this theatre and killing all these kind of Nazis. Is incredible. I think her performance is genuinely incredible. I think Daniel Bruhl's great in it as well, because you hate him as well. He's so fucking annoying. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, go leave it alone.
Exactly. I genuinely thought she was incredible, and that was one of the first things that I saw her in. I actually don't think I've seen her in anything else. What's that actress's name?
So it's Melanie Laurent.
Laurent.
She's in Beginners, Now You See Me. She was in the Murder Mystery Netflix film with Jennifer Aniston and Adam Sandler. I guess all the big things she would have been Now You See Me. Which was
that was
2013.
the man Jesse Eisenberg.
Yeah.
Okay. The magician one.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, I mean she is incredible, and I think it is one of those things where she plays that role so well. Everything she does is so subtle.
Yeah.
Like, again, going back to that scene in the restaurant where you just that moment where she just waits for him to leave
and starts crying.
This total breakdown. And even the way at the end before she dies, where she kind of convinces him to come into the room, where she switches tactic so quickly.
Yeah.
Like, from telling him to fuck off to being like, right, okay, that's not going to work. Okay, right, and you come, and then fucking shoots him in the back. And you're actually gutted when she dies, to be honest.
Absolutely, because you want her to get her comeuppance.
Exactly. You want her to kind of see what she's just made happen and created, and then obviously escape, and it just kind of doesn't happen. But it doesn't happen. But I suppose that's kind of a metaphor for war, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? Nobody wins in the end. So yeah, no, I think she's absolutely incredible, and I think even though there's a clear hatred between her and Daniel Bruhl in the film, I think they bounce off each other really, really well.
Yeah.
Again, like most of Tarantino's stuff, I feel is pretty perfectly cast. Do you know what I mean? He'll often use the same actors again, but they are actors that can play multiple different roles and do them effectively. Like, Brad Pitt, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Inglourious Bastards, and now my mind's escaped me what other ones he's in. Is that the only two he done?
That might be with Brad Pitt.
Yeah. Wonderful. Really, really good.
I can't believe I've not mentioned that. You've literally just mentioned Brad Pitt. I should have started this podcast being like, Buongiorno, because that scene, honestly, I knew it was funny,
Yeah.
Grazie. Yeah, I was sitting there watching it last night, and it's when they're introducing themselves, and Christoph Waltz is like, he knows he's taking the piss, and he's like, "What's your name again?" The guy's like, Margaretti.
Yeah. Gorlami. It's like they're all putting on like genuine Italian accents, and he's just like Gorlami. Ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. But again, it's that kind of like he manages to still keep you gripped, even though there are elements of it that are quite ridiculous.
Is it fair to say that Brad Pitt is an underrated actor? Because I think he is.
Underrated?
Underrated. Because we hear Brad, he's got such a big name, and we go, oh, Brad Pitt, right, whatever. But he's actually so good.
Yeah, I think maybe he achieves that kind of underrated status in people's thinking now because of other movies that he's done. He's done that maybe haven't been quite as good.
Yeah.
Things like Mr. and Mrs. Smith and things like that.
Yeah, but still enjoy it.
Yeah, but, I mean, look, he is an exceptionally talented actor. And you see that in so many different roles that he's played over the years. Snatch is a big one for me.
Yeah.
That accent's insane. It's absolutely insane. Not if anyone in a caravan's got no fucking ways. And you're like, what?
You're like, that's Brad Pitt.
I know. That's Brad Pitt. Aye, insane, mental. But no, I would maybe, all right. I'm inclined to agree. Maybe is a wee bit underrated these days.
I think sometimes
Babylon, I think, was the last movie.
Aye, that's right. Yeah, and he did that.
I haven't seen yet. I saw it didn't get very good reviews, but I haven't managed to kind of stick it on. Is that not another one that's like 3 hours long?
I didn't watch it either. I was like, no thanks. But
yeah, I mean, there's so a lot of movies these days are coming out, and it's like it has to be like 3 hours long. And there's only a handful of directors that I'll go and sit through a 3 hour long movie for, and Tarantino's one of them.
Yeah, absolutely. It was Ad Astra he did as well, that space one recently. Ad Astra, was that Brad Pitt?
Oh yeah.
That was quite long too.
Was it?
But obviously Fight Club, Seven, like obviously the classics of the 90s and stuff like that. But and then of course in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, he is just electric in that film.
Oh, he's brilliant. He's brilliant. I mean, like folk. Don't get me wrong, folk. When that came out, folk were calling it Tarantino's best movie.
Right.
I don't agree. Not just because I could take other people's points about, because if I say that I think Inglourious Bastards is his best movie, then I can take other people's points about why that maybe won't be the case. You know, folk will make a case for things like Pulp Fiction, Reservoir Dogs, and Kill Bill, and all these other ones. But it's just kind of it's just my favourite. Whereas I can see other people's kind of points. I've totally forgot where I was going with that.
I said Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Why people were
yes,
talking about
that
their
was
favourite
one of the
film.
ones I really couldn't understand how people thought that was his best film. I enjoyed it. I thought it was great, but for me, it doesn't hold up to anywhere near the likes of Reservoir Dogs, Inglourious Bastards, even Django. Really, I thought
Django's incredible. Yeah,
Django's an incredible movie. So good. DiCaprio in that movie. Holy shit. Horrible.
Honestly.
Have you ever seen the interview with Jamie Foxx, and he's talking about DiCaprio being on the set and being like, I don't really feel comfortable saying the word.
Oh, right. No, I've not seen that, though.
You know what I mean? And Jamie Foxx is like, Samuel L. Jackson's like, fucking go on with it. Just fucking go on with it. Just fucking say it. Go on with it. Just fucking do it. And it's hilarious. It's good. I mean, Jamie Foxx obviously does. I'm not going to sit there and impression of Samuel L. Jackson, but Jamie Foxx does a quite a good impression of him, and it's really quite funny. You should check it out.
Okay, well, and also Sam Jackson making a cameo in this as the voiceover guy. Where'd that come from?
Exactly. Yeah. Talking about the nitrate film and and Hugo Stiglitz. Yeah, brilliant.
Can you just imagine Tarantino's like, who should we get to do this voiceover? We just phone Sam. See how he's doing. You know what I mean?
And again, that's one of those ones. It's interesting. You hear so many actors, like we're probably going to go on and talk about Oppenheimer, but there's one of the main things that blew me. Another thing that blew me away about that was so many huge actors that are in it for no less than 5 minutes, and it's like, and then you hear these actors talking in interviews, and they all say the same thing. It's always like, Chris Nolan phones you. Right. Doesn't matter how big the part is, you're doing it.
Yeah.
When Gary Oldman turned up at the end, playing President Truman, I was like, what the fuck? That's insane. It's like a 4-minute scene. I know. It's like we are Still Game audition. Like the next day for Still Game. All right, okay, I'll do it. Okay. I'll do it. I suppose so. You know what I mean? Yeah. No, it's crazy. No, man. But yeah, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood's fucking batshit mental.
It's mental. It's mental. I love that movie, right?
The
But
ending
it's
of that movie is
it's
crazy, absolutely mental. See when he like, because he's not an acid, isn't he?
aye.
Flashes her head in with the tin. I was like, oh my god! I was like, what am I watching here?
It's just imagine that's how the Manson murders actually went down, though. I should really hope that is actually what happened. We'll never know.
I know. That'd be good.
But I love that movie. It's not as in terms of story wise, right? I don't think you can get better than Pulp Fiction in terms of like the originality of the story and the kind of way the story's laid out, right? And that's my obviously opinion. I think Pulp Fiction is probably my favourite one.
Yeah, take that.
Now watching Inglourious Basterds just last night, it's definitely shot up back up that list. I had Jackie Brown near the top of my list, right? I don't know if
Great. Jackie Brown's very underrated in Tarantino.
so underrated, right? But
Movie.
I just watched it with my girlfriend, right, who had never seen it,
Mm-hmm.
and she was a bit like, it was really long, it was really slow, and I was like, but that's what he does. Like, you're sitting listening to Robert De Niro have a conversation with somebody. That's what it is. You're not. It's not these big twists left, right, and centre. They come later. But the reason there's such a big twist is because you've listened and you're along for the ride and stuff. And sometimes all you need is it's a simple story. Like, all they're doing in Jackie Brown is she's dropping a bag of money and it's getting picked up by somebody else, but she's not happy that it's going to Sam Jackson's character, so she flips it to Robert Forrester's character, and that's the story. It's not that extravagant, but it's so well done. You know what I mean? Definitely love Jackie Brown. And another one, I'll move on very quickly, but I always forget to mention The Hateful Eight, and I just think it's such a great film.
Yeah,
such
it's
a
like,
soft spot for
it's
it.
like 3 hours long and it's just set in a cabin. And it's still, you're engrossed, like it's mental. And in that moment at the again, he does the exact same thing. He just leads it up to this moment right at the end when it turns. Am I right in saying Channing Tatum turns up in that?
So Channing Tatum is under the floorboards and he does the same shot as Inglourious Basterds, where it's revealed that he's under there and the camera goes down and you see Channing Tatum.
I remember it now. Yeah. I've not watched it in a while. I remember that now. Yeah, but that was another one where I went like that. I went, "Was that Channing Tatum?"
Aye.
Weird casting for Tarantino, I thought, but
I know, it's always a good moment where you go, did you see Eternals, the new Marvel film?
I didn't. That was one of the ones that I gave a miss. I've kind of fallen out of love with Marvel at the minute. I think a lot of people have, just given that it's very much kind of quantity over quality, and I think they've shot themselves in the foot a little bit. I was seeing clips on Twitter of that Secret Invasion finale, and I was like, oh no.
I did watch it. Secret Invasion was alright. It was a wee bit boring, but did you see She-Hulk? She-Hulk was quite ropey with the CGI and stuff. That was a bit weird.
Yeah, I know. I heard that. I didn't get to catch She-Hulk either. I mean, I think I've kind of missed a couple. I missed Quantumania after it kind of started going downhill. I think Eternals was maybe that moment where it started to kind of lean to go downhill. To be fair, Eternals just didn't really look like my thing.
Right.
It just wasn't. It didn't really seem to interest me that much.
Eternals was good. I think people will be a sleeper. I think people go back to it and go, this is actually quite good, but it's not gone anywhere after it. Like, I'm sure it's going to lead to something, but it's just kind of there just now. But what I was going to say was,
there's so many things like in it that they've kind of placed these wee things that you're probably sitting going, you're probably never going to see these people again. Like, exactly. Hulk's son, you're probably never going to see him again. Your man from Ted Lasso playing Hercules at the end of Love and Thunder, was it?
Yeah.
You're never going to see him again. Harry Styles, you're never going to see him again.
This is what I was going to say, right? So at the end of Eternals, spoiler to those who haven't seen it, but Harry Styles appears, and it's like one of those moments where you're sitting watching in the cinema, and you go, is that Harry Styles? Somebody up the back of the cinema went, is that Hangme? And I had to turn around and go, that is Hangme, it is.
Is he not playing like Thanos' brother?
Thanos' brother or son or something.
Oh, Christ, there you go, man. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't know why they cast Harry Styles. They must have done a lot of late night talking.
Good one.
Carry on. Cam. Right, so you may have mentioned this already, but I always end the conversation about the film with this question. This is the Good Bit podcast. What is the best bit of Inglourious Basterds, or your favourite bit? What's the good bit?
Oh, that's tough.
Or a couple.
I mean, the opening scene.
I think so.
The opening scene or the scene in the bar. With the Nazi, the general and the three undercover with Michael Fassbender. Yeah, I would have to say those two. Just for, it is just one of those things that you're gripped absolutely immediately. I think the guy sitting opposite Christoph Waltz in the beginning scene, French actor.
Oh,
I think he doesn't get enough plaudits for that. I think he was absolutely incredible in that scene. And Christoph Waltz, I mean, absolutely steals the show. And then I also think like that's one of the best performances of Fassbender's career as well. I think
absolutely.
in that scene, and your man that plays the German guard or the German general, who I've never seen in anything else before either. He's fucking mind blowing. He's absolutely incredible. He's so threatening. He's got like really threatening eyes that even when he smiles, it's like you're a fucking psychopath. Do you know what I mean?
Aye, absolutely.
So yeah, would have to be those two scenes for me.
Good shout. Good shout.
Absolutely.
All right, well, quickly then, we both saw Oppenheimer this week. We're going to chat. I think in terms of this podcast, we would have spoke about Oppenheimer properly last week in the last episode.
Yeah.
But it's going to be like people are going to be coming on the podcast this time round, and it's going to be either Barbie or it's going to be Oppenheimer. Everybody's seen these two big films, you know.
Yeah.
I saw them both. I enjoyed them both for different reasons. Very similar films. What did you make of Oppenheimer? Where does this rank with Nolan's kind of greatest?
I think it's up there 100%. For me anyway, I went to see it myself yesterday. Went to the IMAX, kind of was like determined to do it the way it's meant to be done.
Yep.
Sat down, quiet cinema, it was great. And was just blown away by it. Quite fitting.
Well.
So like Cillian Murphy's walking away with that Oscar. He has to. And Emily Blunt, I thought was all of the performances in it. Robert Downey Jr.'s incredible. Cillian Murphy's incredible. Matt Damon's great. Josh, for Drake and Josh popping up at one point. What?
People are wait a minute.
Yeah, and then what's your man for the boys? Is it Josh Quaid?
Aye, that's right. Yep.
James Quaid's son. Yep, he's it. Yeah, I thought it again, kind of one of his more like his most well put together. It felt like a movie that he'd been building towards. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? And I thought the main thing for me was the sound production of it. It was mind blowing. That moment where they're about to test the atom bomb for the first time, and you see it drop, and then all the sound just cuts out, and you can hear a pin drop, and then you just hear his breath, and then these IMAX speakers go, and you actually kind of set me back in my seat, like it was mental. Absolutely brilliant. And that's what cinema's all about, I think, for me. Just going there, and I got totally lost in it for 3 hours. It didn't feel like 3 hours to me. I didn't feel it dragged at any point. A couple of folk that I knew went to see it and they said that they thought that the final hour dragged a little bit. I didn't think so. I think that's maybe because there was so much more happening in the first 2 hours, whereas the last hour was essentially you're just watching conversations happen. But I was totally gripped by the entire thing. I think Cillian Murphy leads it incredibly well. I think everyone in it's outstanding. And yeah, I would definitely say it's up there with his best. I think everybody will point to The Dark Knight, or Inception, but I would put it up there with The Dark Knight as one of his best.
Florence Pugh, another one, who's so good in it. You seen all the things on Twitter of like the pictures of Cillian Murphy sitting there like naked with his legs crossed, and it's like me at 3 a.m. watching like the Australian League or something.
Yeah, brilliant. I mean, some of the choices in it I thought were a wee bit like, for Nolan, I was a wee bit like taken aback by like that scene where he has to be honest in the interview and say that he met her and you know had another affair with her, and you just kind of see from her point of view. That was another thing that I thought was incredible about it, the use of black and white changing to colour to show his perspective. Yeah. And then to show kind of what was actual fact.
Quite bold and brave, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. As I said earlier, like he's a director that takes risks and more often than not pull them off, and that's why these studios. He's kind of one of the few directors these days that these studios will just go, much you need.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's that and Barbie coming out has been a kind of monumental thing for cinema. It's a horrible thing to be able to say, but cinema has felt over the past couple of years, especially with COVID, that and with streaming and stuff like that, a mixture of these things that it's kind of on its way out, which I think's a horrible thing. Do you know what I mean?
Terrible. Wasn't it lovely to see how like much buzz these films are getting though? You can say what you want about Barbie, you can say what you want about Christopher Nolan as a director or whatever, but like everybody's going out to see these films. You know what I mean? Which is what it's all about. Definitely.
And I suppose the thing that you just hope is that the studios don't now focus on, is it because we've released two very different movies at the same time?
Right.
Let's just do that all the time. or is it actually because these two movies are incredibly well made by two incredibly well thought of directors, and hopefully they don't just start chucking money at not lesser directors, but you get what I mean.
Yeah.
Picking the right choices, I think, and again going back to that Marvel thing, quality over quantity always is.
I think they're doing that. I think they are slowing down with stuff, which is probably going to be for the best.
Yeah, absolutely. Can only be for the best. So
yeah. In terms of like the last hour of that Oppenheimer, like I don't think it dragged. I think that's the wrong word. I think it's more so like I thought it was going to end at the bomb. You know what I mean? I didn't expect it to be about the verdict. So like when the bomb happened, we had, do you know Cole Stewart, Big Cole? Who was it? Enclan a couple of years ago, or maybe last past year.
I think I maybe met him.
He came in the podcast and he said, I've got a thing called the watch test. Whereas if a movie passes the watch test, then it's a good movie. And that's like, during the movie, you don't look at your watch. You're not ever bored to the point where you look at your watch. That's how he judges his favourite films, right? So I was like, the bomb had happened. I'd been sitting in the cinema for a while and I hadn't checked the watch. And I was like, brilliant, this film is it's going to be great. It's not, it's going to pass the watch test. And I didn't realise we had another hour to go after it. So I think that's what slowed it down for me. Just because I thought that was going to be the end. But, I mean, still, a great last act, you know what I mean, with the verdict and stuff like that.
Absolutely. And I actually thought about that myself. I was like, it's an interesting choice to have it lead up to this big moment and then have a kind of slower third act.
Yeah.
But then again, when I thought about it, I was like, how else could you...
That's it.
How else could you put it together? How else could you have crammed all that in? I don't think it would have been as effective if, say, they jumped to the verdict in the second act, and then went back to the bomb happening in the third, because then the effect of what it kind of done to him mentally and what it done to his life wouldn't have hit home as much. And my favourite thing about the third act for me was discovering that Robert Downey Jr.'s character was an absolute bastard.
Yeah,
an
inglorious bastards.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. So yeah, no, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Do you know, funnily enough, the first movie that I ever didn't check my phone or check my watch in that was about 3 hours long that I thought genuinely flew by, the first Avatar.
First Avatar's really good. Did you see the new one?
I did see the new one.
Thought that was a bit slow.
I thought great first hour.
Yeah.
Second hour dragged like fuck. Mm-hmm. And then I thought the ending was brilliant.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it, but it was just a long film. Aye.
Oh yeah. I don't think it needed to be that. I don't think the second hour needed to be that big and that lengthy. But yeah, that first Avatar was the first movie I ever seen in an IMAX, and I remember it was the first one that I never checked my phone halfway through it, which is terrible indictment of this day and age, innit? But
crazy.
I know, it's bad.
Even just sitting watching films in the house, like you need to put your phone away. Like it's so easy.
I know.
To pick it up.
Yeah.
But yeah, but I should say about like the kind of all the big actors appearing and stuff like that. I mean, I knew, but obviously on the poster it says Florence Pugh, Cillian Murphy, Robert Downey Jr. and somebody else. It says on the thing. So I was alright, those are the big stars that are in it. But then at one point I was like, that looks a lot like Emily Blunt. Oh wait, no, it is Emily Blunt. Wait a minute, there's Matt Damon. What the hell? And it just keeps coming. And I'm such a massive like mid-2000s Nickelodeon Disney Channel guy, because that's what I grew up on. Fuck, Josh Peck, man, honestly. I was like, what is he doing here?
Insane, madness. And it's like such a short scene, but he does very well.
He does very well, yeah. Glad to see he's still kicking about.
One of my favourite bits of the movie was when they're talking about where to drop the bomb. And your man says, I've crossed Kyoto off the list.
Aye.
Because it has huge cultural significance to Japan, and my wife and I honeymoon there. And I was just sitting there going, holy fuck, man. I was like, this is mental. That's absolutely fucking insane.
That's our reason.
Even process. But it just shows you like how these huge kind of historical events totally fucked up by a room of fucking selfish men.
Aye.
Do you know what
totally,
I mean?
Man.
It's insane.
Totally.
It's insane. But yeah, just totally incredible movie.
When they're testing the bomb though, and like you are feeling nervous, you know what I mean? You want it to go well. You know what happens, but
yeah, totally. It's like, but you just kind of you want to see it, and I just thought the way that it was dealt with. I think that's actually quite realistic, isn't it? In terms of if a bomb was to go off, you would see it a lot quicker than you'd hear it.
Absolutely, yeah. I thought it was really clever.
True, yeah. But it's just that way of like when the sound cuts out and you're sitting there and you don't know when it's going to kick in, and then when it does, it genuinely sent me back in my seat.
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about, man. That's what it's all about.
Absolutely. Right, well, Sean, thanks very much for coming on the podcast. Have you got something coming up very soon?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. So we done the first preview on Sunday there for a play called Sean and Darrow Flake It Till They Make It, which is by Laurie Motherwell, and will be on at the Edinburgh Fringe at the Traverse. We'd done a run of it in April. And then it was immediately asked to come back. It's a lot more light-hearted, Moorcroft. It's a kind of light-hearted comedy about two working-class boys who decide to kind of go into business together and buy an ice cream van over the summer, and it all goes tits up. But it's good. It's a nice, fun story. It's great to be a part of, and it's great to work with Cammy as well. And Laurie's an incredible writer as well. So, no, I'm looking forward to taking it to the Fringe, seeing how maybe some international members of the audience take to it. That's what the Fringe is all about, really. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, no, I'm looking forward to doing the Fringe again. It'll be good.
Well, I'll try come catch it, and then I'll get to see you in person, and we can maybe have a drink or something like that, and I can thank you for doing the podcast. There we go.
100%, man. Thank you so much.
No, thank you, man. Thanks, everybody, for listening and for watching this episode of the Good Bit Podcast. Take care of yourselves and each other, and we'll catch you all down the road.